If I tell somebody, if I tell you, you're committing a sin, okay? And I say, hey, you're committing a sin. This is a sin you're committing, okay? This is what God says when you commit this sin. This is your attitude I see when you commit this sin. So let me give an example, okay? Someone mocks God, okay? And then I say, hey, why are you mocking God? We can't mock God. That is not okay. And they go, whatever. Why you're not fun. You're focused too much on, being a stuck-up Christian. You really think the disciples of Christ didn't crack jokes like that? You really think the disciples of Christ were all so good and loving? And it's like, okay, but hear me out. And then they go, oh, but I'm going to be forgiven anyways. But yet they don't repent. Yet they don't try and change their sin that they're committing. They continue to commit their sin, and yet they will never repent on it. They're too focused on worldly things that people think about them instead of the Spirit. And that's why in the Bible verse, I don't know exactly what verse it is, but that's why in the Bible, when Jesus says it's easier for a camel to get in the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. And you want to know why he says that? It's because the rich man says, Jesus, will I get into heaven? How do I get into heaven, Jesus? And Jesus says, drop everything you have. Everything. Allow God to take away everything from you. And you can follow me. And you come follow me. And the rich man said no. And so then that's when Jesus said, you will never get into heaven. Because it's easier for a camel to go through the needle of the eye of the needle, than a rich man to get into heaven. Because if you're not willing to drop everything you have in life for God, if you're not willing to admit that you will not do that, if you are not willing to admit when you are sinning, when you don't deserve it, you can't get into heaven. So stop focusing on the worldly things and start focusing on God and Jesus. They're the only thing that matters. And if you focus on them, they will bless you because that's what they do. I love you guys and I want you guys to shine. And so when I comment on somebody that's committing a sin, when I say comment on somebody and I'm telling them, hey, this is what you're doing and let me guide you to what you need to be doing. Let me share why you can't do that. It's not me judging. It's me doing it out of love.